All right, William, how's it going, man? Thanks for coming on today, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going good.
Excellent, man. First of all, the world knows you as a tremendous actor. And I got to say this, you're also a filmmaker. I'd like to start with that, because I think it's fantastic. You're into animal rights, animal intervention.
We're actually revamping that because I don't know if you know, we have a writer's strike, and it's very possible that the actors are going to strike July 1st,
Okay.
which shuts down all union production. So the pivot would be back to non-scripted. So we're going to actually try to revamp it. I was just talking to Allison Eastwood yesterday about revamping our animal rescue show, and we're actually going to do probably two shows. One like the exotic animal, like Animal Intervention on Nat Geo, which I don't even know if you can find the episodes anymore. I tried
Wow.
looking for them. Yeah, I don't know what Nat Geo. They're not the best network, Nat Geo. Um, and so they were very disorganized, and so yeah, it was not the best experience. I don't think I would work with them again.
Well, I'm glad I bring this up. A, that you're bringing it back around. And, me and my wife, we're huge animal lovers. And any single time we see anyone rescue an animal, take care of an animal, that's very important to us. We have a rescue Chihuahua. She is everything to me. My little
Yeah.
collie girl. What about you, man? What kind of animals you have?
Well, the one thing that I am doing right now that almost could seem like a documentary, but it's not. It's more in the line of Curb Your Enthusiasm, is my show, The Trouble with Billy. I don't know if I sent you the trailer for that yet.
I'd love to
Um,
see it.
yeah, I'll send it to you. And that stars my rescued dog. She's an Eastwood Ranch dog. She's a pit bull, and so yeah, so I've got the pit bull rescue, uh, and I do a lot of rescue, and I focus mostly on pit bulls because it's the biggest problem in the system right now. Um, so many pit bulls end up at the shelters, and because there's so many, and because they can't share kennel space because they're pit bulls and they're unknown origins, they don't know if it's a dangerous dog or not, and they can be dangerous. Um, that they get euthanized, like probably in just LA County alone, probably 100 pit bulls a day. Euthanized, 100 a day. That's 700 a week. I mean, and I don't know where they all come from. There's just pit bulls wandering around San Bernardino, pit bulls wandering around LA. I'm like, where are these dogs coming? It's weird. It's like maybe an alien ship arrived and just let off billions of pit bulls. I don't know, because I
Right.
don't know why somebody would have a pit bull dog and then let it go as
How
an
else do you
adult.
explain it? Exactly. And pits are beautiful dogs. A lot of my buddies over the years had them whenever I went over their house for like the fights or whatever. They think they're lap dogs, some of them.
Yes, my dog's a
They'll
lap
jump
dog.
right on you, and you're
Yep,
huge,
yep,
you know?
that's
And
right.
how long have you had your dog for?
I've had her for about 8 years, and the pit bull before I had for 10 years, but had cancer. Um, and the show is about that. My pit bull now plays my other pit bull, the first one. So she's my pit bull's name is Twinkie, but she plays Boo in the TV series, which we're just on the phone just now, the conference call with big time entertainment attorney who's going to rep us. And then we have William Morris got behind the show. So it's going to sell.
What
We
a
even have,
coincidence that I just happened to ask this. I was doing my research for my notes, and obviously you have a highly decorated career. I cannot wait to pick your brain on some of your roles. And I stumbled across that, and I'm like, well, that's really interesting, and I did not know that. So I'm glad we started there. Speaking of starts, your start in acting, fascinating one. Would you mind sharing that with us?
which one?
Your start in acting.
My start?
Yeah, what got you all into acting?
Well, basically, it was a long held desire. When I was a little kid, my mom was friends with this actress from the '70s. Her name was Valerie Perrine, very successful in the '70s. And they were good friends. So I got to go on movie sets. When I was a little kid, my mom lived out in LA for a couple of years. She was living with an actor from General Hospital, and so I got to see the Hollywood scene for myself, and I really enjoyed the environment and the vibe. I was a little kid, so I wasn't sure what it was, but it was fun. It was always fun. People are always having fun. And I was like, wow. And they're making lots of money having fun. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. That's what I want to do. I want to have fun and make lots of money. And so my mom ended up we ended up leaving LA and going to New York. My mom married an investment banker from a very old money family from New York. So I ended up, getting sent off to boarding school when I was like 12, pre-prep school, and then I went to prep school and then Columbia. Um, and so I was being groomed to like go a different direction. But I'd always wanted to be an actor, and I was in New York City, So I thought, well, and so what they did is they got me a job working on the production side at the studio at Fox. So hopefully I would be groomed into being a business person in the business as opposed to an actor. They thought it was a more stable life. By the way, they were right. I was wrong. So anyway, but as when I was at Columbia in New York, I was fulfilling my obligation of going to school for my family. They're like, you have to do whatever you want when you get out of college, but right now you're going to go to college, and but I was in New York City, which meant they sent me to boarding school. It was in Connecticut and Massachusetts, all boys. There was no drama. There was no drama at all, no theater, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
When you go to these boarding schools back east, it's academics and athletics. That's it.
Right.
And you're being sent to like an Ivy League school. You're being prepped for Ivy League, and you have to have an amazing education, and you have to have some kind of athletic skill. So, anyway, I started going to acting classes in New York City, and nobody knew. I was just, I'd go down, I'd leave my apartment up on 116th and Riverside near Columbia, and I would go all the way downtown to these different acting schools. And then on my own, I got an agent, commercial agent, did some modeling for Ford models, and from Ford models, I got the commercial agent, and I started making money in commercials, unbeknownst to my family. And back in those days, when you do not true anymore, but back in those days when you did commercials, you could make a fortune in residuals. It was unbelievable. And so as a 19-year-old, I think I saved up from commercials about $100,000. And that's in the 80s. And $100,000 is pretty good.
Yeah.
Even though I'm trying how much my apartment was. The apartments in New York City are expensive. I was on the west side. It was probably only like $1,300 a month. So it's not that bad.
No.
And so anyway, so I had started making my own money. So I was able to drop out of school. And my family said, well, if you drop out, we're going to cut you off. I said, okay. They had no idea. And then I told J. Michael Bloom, my commercial agent, that I wanted to be sent on theatrical, meaning film and television. And they're like, well, you're not really theatrical actor. You're like a model commercial actor. And so I ended up they said, you need to get some experience in, so I started doing summer stock, Williamstown, which is very prestigious summer stock. I mean, Chris Walken's there, Blythe Danner, Holly Hunter, Gwyneth Paltrow. It was just, it's really prestigious summer stock. It's part of Yale Drama School. So the guy that ran Yale Drama ran Williamstown. So we had access to some, everybody. So I started getting training there, theatrical training. And then William Morris started sending me out on film and television, which I started to book right away. So that's my humble beginnings.
You could certainly see it in your acting. Obviously, the theater, you're intense, but you don't overdo it.
Right.
I know a lot of theater guys, they have a tendency to overact. And there is a big difference between stage and obviously, film. And you have a perfect ability to really, get that intensity, but not go too far. But you make the message very loud and clear, and your physical acting is very impressive. Like, for example, the role Copycat. It's probably one of the most iconic roles I've ever seen an actor have to do. You are playing so many different characters in that film. Like that and like Primal Fear, like my two favorite like psychological thrillers. You guys had to go through a lot in those roles, and they really pressed the envelope. I'm sure. I mean, you're a nice guy. That movie's a little crazy. So I want to start there, but there's obviously a bunch of movies I want to talk about. What was the origins, the genesis of getting that role? Because that was an iconic role for you.
Of Copycat.
Yeah,
Oh, that's an interesting story. Uh I had done a low budget movie that was really good, called Radio Inside. Great little movie. And the two guys that produced it, Mark Tarloff and John Fiedler, were very well respected film producers in Hollywood. So it's interesting that they're doing this low budget movie. And I think they've self financed it. And the movie did very well. And it's one of the only movies I've ever, they paid me scale, but I had a back end deal. And it's the only, and they always offer, oh, we can't pay you up front, but we'll give you a back end deal. I'm like, oh, come on, guys. I'm not stupid. Just give me the money. I want the money. No back end deals. Because you don't ever see that.
you never see any back
Never.
deal.
But on this movie, they sold it to Showtime. So I saw a very nice back end. It was quite a shock. And so anyway, that producer, Mark Tarloff, who I think recently passed away,
Yeah,
he was the producer of Copycat. And so, and he's good friends with the director, John Emile. And he screened the movie, Radio Inside, and John came to the screening, not to, research me as an actor. Just, Mark said, hey, I've got a movie, low budget movie. I think it's pretty good. Come see it. And so John Emile did. And after Emile saw it, he contacted my agent at CAA and said, hey, I've got interest in doing this movie. And I'd like to meet Billy McNamara. And they said, oh, for what role? I said, nothing in specific, nothing specifically. I'd like to meet him. And then, but nothing specific. Maybe there's nothing in this movie, but I want to meet him. So they called me. I said, sure. So I drove from Malibu to the Chateau Marmont and met with them. Super nice guy. He said he was talking. He said all these good things about Radio Inside, and the meeting was like an hour. It was fine, and then I left. And my agent called me and said, "Great meeting. John Emile loves you. But there's nothing for you in this movie." I said, "Well, I figured that." I was thinking the role that Dermot Mulroney played, the detective.
right.
Right. I thought that's what because I'm the guy next door. I could play, shave my head a little bit, give me a crew cut, and I could be a cop, probably, hopefully. That's the role I was thinking. And that's the role I think my agent was thinking, and possibly John Emile was thinking. I don't know. But I'm like, oh, well, whatever, man. And I just forgot about it. And a couple of weeks later, my agent called me and said, John wants to see you again. I'm like, he does? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So I go there and we have a long conversation, and he's kind of like a psychiatrist, asking me all these questions about my past and my family and this, that. And Billy Hopkins, the casting director, was filming the whole thing. And so I said, and that was it. It was the weirdest experience. I was like, no sides to audition with. Usually, if people want you for a role, you have to read 2 or 3 of the scenes. That's how you do it. And you have to do good. John Emile didn't do that. And so I still didn't know what role he was thinking of. I was hoping it was the detective that gets shot in the early part of the movie. He gets killed by a freak accident. And so anyway, about a week later, my agent called me and said, he wants you to play the serial killer. I'm like, the serial killer? That's, that doesn't make any sense. And I don't think I can do it. And by the way, I did a movie early on in my career called Stealing Home with Jodie Foster. And I was the boy next door. And when my agent would try, prior to Copycat, when my agent would try to pitch me for edgier, tougher roles, casting would always say, no, I saw Billy in Stealing Home. Great actor, but he's too soft. He's the boy next door. He's too soft. Yeah. That's what they'd say. I'm soft. And so we got a lot of pushback, So when he said the serial killer, we were all kind of amazed. Like, that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. And so, and then lo and behold, they made the offer. And while I didn't feel confident about doing it back then, it's like whatever I got off, I mean, you got to work, and it's a studio movie, all these things. So I think it's important to work, you know, and to challenge yourself. It was a real challenge.
Yeah, you
And
did great, man. I mean, you had to play all those different characters. Like for those who haven't seen the film, it's a wonderful piece, a study on the psychology of criminals, serial killers in particular in this case. And you copycat it, like the movie said, some of the most major serial killers, some of the most nastiest individuals to
right,
ever walk the planet Earth.
right.
Tough.
That's right. Yeah. And so that's the origin of that. That's the whole thing. It's an amazing story because it also shocked me as well.
It must be nice, like on a set like that, when you finally have like a break and everyone could just like kind of laugh, right? And just
Right.
like, have a good time
Yeah. Oh
because the
yeah.
movie's so gory and there's just things of it's so dark, but it's so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver was killer. You had Harry Connick in there. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a very unique movie,
Yeah.
especially for any time, really. I have not seen a movie quite done like that before.
And it's interesting at the time in the 90s, there were no uh leading roles for women. So the movie's way ahead of itself. So you got to remember two things. There's two leads in that movie. So you would think that
Right.
Dermot Mulroney and Holly Hunter would come and save Sigourney Weaver because it's always a man. The man always saves all these movies. It's always the man saving the woman, never the other way around. Now that's changed because the environment in Hollywood has changed. But in the 90s, nobody was doing that. Nobody's doing that. Seven, it was Brad Pitt who came to the rescue, So that's how it's done. And the bad guy's the male, sure, no problem. But the guy that has to kill the bad guy is always a man. So they didn't do that in Copycat. They had Sigourney Weaver the lead, and they had Holly Hunter, another woman, saving Sigourney Weaver.
That's one hell of a point that I've never really realized. Maybe realized, but not really like really thought about it
Right,
hardcore. And it was a time where women really weren't the lead. Now you have two of them.
right.
As you mentioned, one of like the major male characters die.
Yep.
He doesn't save the day.
Nope.
So it is pretty intense.
It
And
is.
Sigourney's character very vulnerable. She was agoraphobe, couldn't leave her house.
Right,
So she's already very vulnerable and weak. You
right.
and you prey on her and target her. And dude, that was such a my wife's all into that. She watches like the forensics channel like all day long. She's all into that sort of thing. I'm like, you gotta watch this movie Copycat, dude. It's like one of the craziest movies you'll ever see about the subject, man. But you always surround yourself around very excellent actors and again unique stories. Surviving the Game, if I'm not mistaken, that was based on a book, The Most Dangerous Game, sort of loosely.
Yeah, I think the most dangerous game was a short story.
Short
I'm not
story, yeah.
100% positive. They made a few movies based on that short story, but
Yeah, it's one hell of a short story. Yeah.
yeah, it is. And yeah, so that was a great movie, and that I thought it would have done better financially because it was pretty good. um, but yeah, all great actors. You're right. Rutger Hauer.
Rucker Hauer, man.
F. Murray Abraham. You can't beat Murray Abraham. That guy.
Right. And it was a time during that time again that movies were doing different things. You had like Demolition Man with like Stallone, and the martial arts movies were still hanging on a little
Right.
by a thread. You had Seagal out there still kicking ass.
Right.
So it was a weird time at the box office, just like it was with music, the transition of the 80s to the 90s.
Yeah.
Nirvana comes in the 90s, and then bang, next thing you know, music changes.
Right.
And I definitely want to talk to you about music in a moment, but I have to address this film too. Stag, one of the most unique films I've seen. Again, another brilliant plot. We got a bunch of guys partying, strippers, someone dies, try to cover up a murder. You find out who's your real friends are, which is like nobody.
Right.
Tell us about this film. How'd that come together for you?
Don't remember that much about Stag, but I do. And unfortunately, it's weird, the bane of my career, when I did Copycat, for example, 2 weeks before Copycat came out, Seven came out and kind of
Oh,
killed the show. And Stag came out on HBO, it was an HBO movie, came out after Very Bad Things,
similar film. Yeah.
similar film with bigger actors in it, I think.
Jerry
Um,
McNamara was in it. Yeah.
who? Yeah,
Jeremy
Jeremy
Piven.
Piven.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think like was Christian Slater
Christian
and Pete.
Slater. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and did maybe Pete?
Favreau?
Huh?
I want to say Favreau, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. And I think like Peter Berg might have directed it
Yeah.
when I become a big director. So, you know, our thing was much lower budget than theirs, I'm pretty sure. And but ours is pretty good. I mean, if you see it, it's pretty edgy. Stag is pretty edgy. And I had this wild performance in it that they weren't too keen on, to be honest with you. Um, but I stuck to it. And very unique performance that I did.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
You had to, because the characters were so like diversified, and you didn't know who you wanted to root for,
right,
you know. McCarthy
right.
was good at that in that film.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was like you like him, but then he's like so douchey. It's like I don't know.
right, right.
But it's a good film, among many that you've been in. I mean, Dream a Little Dream. A lot of people know that one. What are you working on currently? What do we have to look forward to?
Um, I finished a movie in Santa Fe with Stephen Dorff, Cole Hauser, Costas Mandelar, Corn Nemec. It's a Western called Dead Man's Hand. It's a Lionsgate film. And what I'm really focused on right now is selling my TV series called The Trouble with Billy. I sent you the trailer. And
Awesome.
that's we've shot all 10 episodes. So it's done. It's in the can. And right now we're, looking to sell it to a Netflix or a Showtime. It's really good. You'll see the trailer. And very unique. Um, and so, but because of the writer strike and potential actor strike, I'm going to get back into producing non-scripted because there's no unions in non-scripted.
Yeah,
So I'm going to try to put together 2 animal rescue shows.
that's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, one for like dogs and cats, the typical, and also the more exotic animals, like me and Allison did with animal intervention. So I have a lot of experience with rescues, so it's pretty easy. I have a whole production team now. Um, so we have all the equipment, we have everything that we need. And I've convinced them, I said, guys, they had another movie they were going to do, another Western in Santa Fe, but now because of the potential SAG strike, can't get your movie bonded, can't get insurance because everybody's worried that if the actors strike and you're in the middle of production, that SAG will force you to shut down, so you can't get insurance.
Wow.
So we're gonna focus and pivot a bit into the non-scripted world, which I'm also pretty good at.
Well, that's the
Sold it.
theater experience too. And you mentioned Curb Your Enthusiasm. I know that they out kind of like they put a plot out there sort of, and I think they just play off each other a lot of times too, right? That's not scripted to my knowledge.
It's not really scripted. I mean, it's scripted in that they put the ideas what they need to accomplish in every scene,
Right.
and they hire such good actors that are so good at improv. They're so experienced that you can rely on. Yeah, very professional team of film, TV makers and TV actors. Very
Oh,
professional.
absolutely. And speaking of which, like TV shows and movies, what are you into nowadays? Like, what are some of your favorite TV shows or movies of all times, sort of thing?
I mean, I really liked that series on HBO, Barry, which was Bill Hader's show. It's
Okay.
about Hollywood. He's a hitman that comes to an acting class that he's supposed to kill somebody in the acting class, and he ends up falling in love with acting.
How did I miss this? It sounds great.
Oh, it's a great show. Henry Winkler plays the acting teacher. Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's on HBO. It's called Barry. And what's great about it, it's a little bit of a cheat. Like I always get a little like peeved because like The Trouble with Billy is a straight comedy. We're lower budget, so we don't have the Barry is a comedy, but they have moments of extreme, really well shot violence, not cheesy B movie violence,
Right.
A plus stuff. It's like you're watching Taken with Liam
Yeah,
Neeson.
yeah.
It's that level of writing and shooting. So Barry being a 30-minute show, it's easy because if it starts to lull a little bit with the comedy, they can pick it up with the violence, which I don't have that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And the way violence is shot is so important. I'm huge into like, karate movies and all that kind of stuff and action films. And like I love the rawness to say like Lethal Weapon 4's fight scene. It's very raw. Now, is it likely a fight like that goes down in real life? No. But
right,
it's very cool. It's very intense. It's very quick. Whereas
right.
some of these battles are so drawn out, or they're just not shot right, they're not lit right, you know,
Right.
and it really takes away from the audience experience. The problem is like just like with everything is oversaturation. Too many people are making films, too many people are doing this, and they're rushing the product, and then it loses its passion, it loses its intensity. It's like, when I watch some of these films that are being made nowadays, there's some good plots, but they're just not being executed properly, you know,
Right.
and it's unfortunate. They have the means to put it out, but it's like they just need better, companies around them, better people around them to help them make,
Yeah.
because filmmaking is an art,
Yeah. That's right.
like
It is.
it's a beautiful art when it's the Reservoir Dogs. I mean, that's a simple, beautiful film. Like
Yep.
that movie just does not get old to me, but more about culture, music. What kind of music do you like, William?
My music taste is pretty esoteric. Um, and so not into anything that's like happening right now. The old rock and roll stuff I still love. Um, and I like there's a couple of like unknown bands. Um, uh, uh, the Lonesome Sisters, which they broke up actually. They were fantastic. Also,
Now they're really alone.
yeah, now they're really alone. Yeah, and and so and then a lot of the other music I like is I'm big into the yoga scene, Kundalini yoga, and some of the spiritual music. The people that they're amazing artists. I don't know how or why they congregate in the Kundalini yoga crowd, which is a specific crowd, and very creative stuff and amazing stuff. From electronica, they do everything with the chanting, and so it's weird, esoteric. So my
Oh,
music
I
taste
like that
is
kind of stuff, man. Like I'm listening. I'm a drummer. That's what I do for a living. I teach music, and I used to perform out, but I'm in my 40s now, and I slowed down a little bit. I just go
yeah,
to work, and that's it, man. And have this podcast, and I have a great time talking to wonderful people like yourself. But music, I listen to everything, and I'm very big into spirituality and fitness and exercise, and that kind of music galvanizes you, your soul,
right,
motivates you. I mean, I could go from like listening to just about anything like Metallica or 311 or real like hardcore type stuff or like jazz or like it depends on what I'm trying to accomplish and what I want to achieve in that moment. Because music
right,
to me is a heavy influence. And in film, like you take the Star Wars theme out of Star Wars, that movie just doesn't work.
right,
Same as it does. It's always going to be a fantastic film, but that music, Rocky Four, oh, the soundtrack, forget about it.
right.
Um, that's some of the biggest things. Do you play any instruments at all?
I don't, but that's funny that I like doing my own music for like The Trouble with Billy, and I don't hire composers. I hire musicians, and I kind of tell them what I want them to do, or I play something on YouTube. And so the ending song of the show is like the theme song for The Trouble with Billy. A little piece of it should be in the trailer I sent you at the end, and I sing on that a little bit. And I have a terrible voice, So the husband and wife, the husband is a musician, his wife's a great singer. So they sort of backed up my voice. They made it sound a lot better. So I'd love to do that, but I'm just not very talented at it. But I've got good ideas. The music is very unique for The Trouble with Billy. And it's it's pretty good, and I love it. Just I can't play anything, but I can kind of explain what I want, or I hum it. And he
Exactly.
goes, "Oh, I got you, man. I'll do." And he gets on the piano or the keyboard or the guitar or whatever. And it's like, that's it. Yes.
You'd be surprised too, us musicians understand it. Like I'll have a student come in my studio, they'll be like, the song that goes doom to doom doom to I'm like, oh, the immigrant song, Led Zeppelin. They're like, how the hell did you just do that? Dude, I've been around this thing a long time. When you're around notes every day, like, say 70% of your life, you know,
Right.
at this point you should understand it better than you understand yourself.
Yes.
You know?
And are you in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I'm in Vegas.
So I spent 2 years there. I just got moved back. Kind of came back at my place in Santa Monica, but I spent 2 years there during the lockdowns
Oh,
because
wow.
it was really crazy in LA, and Vegas was way more open.
Oh, way
And
over.
actually, I hired for the first 4 episodes. I hired a music teacher, local music teacher, to do the music, and he did a pretty good job.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then
That
he
is,
disappeared. I couldn't find him, so I had to hire a local LA guy who was actually better. But he did a great job on the first 4 episodes. It's
that's
like,
really great. I can't wait to hear it, man.
yeah,
That's awesome, dude. It's always great to hear people getting work, especially in the music biz. And when it's
yeah,
legit, and especially when you get to tie in two arts in one. You get
right,
music and you get the film side of it, and then everything
right.
else that goes along with it. That trailer, can I put that on this
Yeah,
video?
of course.
Can I clip it? The
Yeah,
video, by the way, will be on Spotify, YouTube,
yeah, of course.
for Spotify and everything. Yeah, we'll put that trailer on for you so our viewers and listeners can find.
It's a long trailer. It's 4.5 minutes, so it's not your typical commercial trailer.
Right.
In that a commercial trailer is about 2 minutes. This is more for, which is still pretty good. It's still worth watching the whole 4 minutes. This is a trailer more called called the sizzle reel, which you show to buyers. So we have 300 minutes of television for the show. There's no way a buyer is going to sit down and watch 300 minutes. So that's why it's a little. They will watch
Right.
4.5 when they're
Yeah.
making multi-million-dollar purchases. They have to. They're not going to watch 300 minutes, but they will watch 4.5 minutes, which sort of encompasses the tone of the show. So that's why it's longer than most commercial trailers.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to check it out. Also, how can we check you out on social media? How can we find you?
Well, it's on Instagram. It's just my name, William McNamara 108, and then on Facebook, it's usually type in William McNamara or Billy McNamara. I've got 2 pages, and then it's easy. I've got a Facebook page for The Trouble with Billy, and it's just facebook.com/The Trouble with Billy, and that's my main page that I promote. And then Twitter, I think, is just William McNamara. I can't remember. I think it's just my name.
So much social media nowadays, man. My stepdaughter all the time telling me about TikTok. Get on there, you'll get so much more like, traffic. I'm like, dude, I could barely log into my Facebook still. And everyone's
Right.
like, yo, why would your podcast? They're like, it's really good. You keep it so raw. I'm like, well, it actually started during COVID and it was just kind of like something I wanted to do and I kept with it. And I like the rawness of it. It's like it brings
Yeah.
me back to that time,
Yeah.
it's just like press record, no like news ticker on the bottom, just like, hey.
Right. It's great.
There's no like the thing is too, you put on a pod, a lot of people like, sign up for me here. And I understand plugs, but it's like, geez, man, I'm 4 minutes into the podcast. I haven't even got any information about the show yet. Like that I want
Right.
to come on board for. So
Right.
that's the best part. You got to reel them in, and I'm sure that sizzle reel is going to do that for us. William, I cannot thank you enough, man. You have been in some great movies. I mean, I can go on and on. Big fan ever since I saw Copycat. I knew that there was definitely something special about your acting craft, man.
Cool. All right, man.
All right, brother. I'll send you over the links as soon as they're done, my man. Thank you so much for doing this.
All right. Thank you.
All
Nice to
right,
meet
buddy.
you. All
Yep.
right.
See you
All
soon.
right. Bye-bye.
Later, bro.